Thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me in New Central.
The presidency, this current administration, has been repeatedly accused of attempting to rewrite rules of statecraft. From your position as a lawyer, is it in our laws a committee of the House of Representatives to oversee a sole administrator?
You see, like they always say, the problem with one illegality is that it breeds more illegality. And in this case, the unconstitutional action of the president of sacking and, or rather suspending a constitutional and duly elected governor of Rivers State is that it breeds more problem. And in this case, if you remember, it is not only the governor that was suspended, even the House of Assembly, in an unprecedented manner, were also suspended. And so the state was left only with the judiciary as only an arm of government, constitutionally there to do its work. But the House of Assembly is not there, and the governor is not also there. So from the beginning, the act of imposing, or rather installing a sole administrator is unconstitutional, is unknown to law. So also the act of suspending, a democratically elected House of Assembly, suspending them, at a go is also unconstitutional. And that's why the presidency, or rather the federal government, because the federal government does not just involve the presidency, it also includes the National Assembly and the judiciary also. And that's why they are battling right now, to swallow what they have done. And that's why they are constituting this committee to oversee the sole administrator and even to direct him to report to them. It is not constitutional. There is no law anywhere in our laws that empowers the National Assembly to direct a sole administrator to do that. There is no law. In fact, there is no provision for appointment of sole administrator, and that is why it's like building something on nothing.
Wow. Some analysts are also saying that the appointment of this committee seems to be a move to assuage the backlash over the inevitability of the military-style approach to governance of a sole administrator. First off, do you agree? Add to that the viability that members of a committee as being set up by the House will be able to provide credible oversight along with their federal assignments.
There is a provision of the Constitution of Nigeria around Section 11(4), which mandates, or rather which empowers the National Assembly to legislate for states. But that provision is clear. It says where a House of Assembly cannot function or is unable to function, then the National Assembly can step in and function on their behalf. But in this case, we are dealing with a House of Assembly of a state that has been suspended unconstitutionally. Every legal mind in Nigeria has agreed that the declaration of emergency in the Rivers State, and especially what follows it, which is the removal of the duly elected governor and the suspension, of the House of Assembly, was unconstitutional, and that's why they're battling with this. So in this case, you're not dealing with the House of Assembly that's unable to function. You understand what I mean? So assuming they are unable to function, what the law says is that they should be there to legislate on their behalf. But asking a sole administrator to report to a National Assembly committee, that cannot be pointed at anywhere in the body of Nigerian laws. Why? Because oversight does not involve, yes, the House of the National Assembly has oversight function, but oversight function on federal government MDAs. That's what the law says. Rivers State government is not an MD of the federal government. So they can only make law, but they cannot ask a sole administrator, that's assuming he's constitutional, assuming without conceding. They cannot ask him to report to them. They don't have that power anywhere in our laws.
Okay, I want to ask a curious question. It's been, it's almost a month that this state of emergency was declared, and across board, the calls have been to the president and the federal government, in this case, to reconsider the decision on a state of emergency. My question is, are there no options to explore to sort of compel the federal government, perhaps, using the weight of the law to reconsider the decision and follow democratic principles, or provide a timeline, not this extended 6 months, that they will quickly address the issues that led to the state of emergency? I mean, there are no explosions anymore since that declaration was made.
You see, Section 305 is the section of the Constitution that deals with proclamation of state of emergency. And the section is clear. It says that the president can declare at the request of the governor. It has to be at the request of the governor. He can declare state of emergency in any part of Nigeria. But the section goes on to say that that declaration can only be done for 6 months and below. It shouldn't be more than 6 months. What that means is that the president can just wake up tomorrow and say the proclamation made in Rivers State has been set aside, and then the governor will be, will take back the mantle, and the House of Assembly will continue to do their work. That can be done. So some kind of pressure can be mounted, political pressure can be mounted. If that cannot be done within the bounds of the law, then of course they can approach court. But Nigerian courts, as you know, they can be very sluggish. I mean, proceedings can take forever. I am not sure in any court of Nigeria, like in this case, I understand the PDP governors want to approach the Supreme Court of Nigeria, but I don't think it's a case that can be resolved as expeditiously as if the president, for example, is willing, has the political will to set aside the proclamation. So in my view, it is better if the president can heed all the opinion of the legal minds, refined legal minds in Nigeria, including the Nigerian Bar Association, that have openly declared, the declaration and the proclamation as unconstitutional, absolutely.
All right, let me just go ahead and ask you anyway. It's been about a month. The sole administrator is already taking command in the state. What would be your overview of what has happened in this 1 month? Does it justify this decision in any way? Of course, you're not for the decision, but does it sort of give any clarity to why the president took this decision? I believe when the sole administrator was appointed,
the orders or the directive given to them was that he should go there and maintain peace and order. That is what he's supposed to do. So even the extent of his activity or of his power has been circumscribed already from the word go. He is not allowed to go there and begin to build, projects, build road, houses, hospitals and all of that. He's just there to maintain law and order. So there's a limit to what he can do. And so I don't know, I am of the opinion ab initio from the beginning that the proclamation itself is politically motivated, and that is why I don't want to believe that anything new is happening. If Fubara was there and the democratically elected House of Assembly members were there, I believe they would have been continue to make effort, because these are people that have mandates. They have the mandates of the people, they have responsibility, and they shoulder it. And politically speaking, they will have the urge, to try to satisfy the needs of the people that have elected them. So I don't want to believe the sole administrator there is doing anything that, better than what the governor and the House of Assembly will have done if they were here.
Abbas, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you for giving us your time.